Okay, so this is a new video entitled Principles of a New Psychology. Um, it's just basically a condensing of things I've already worked on previously and just kind of setting out the principles of a new psychology, just the basic outlines of what the new kind of psychological model will have to look like, what it will have to account for, what processes it will have to account for in the human psyche, as well as the basic kind of structure and function of the human psyche. So, the first principle of a new psychology is the physics of psychology. The notion that psychology is physics. Now, what does that mean specifically? That means that I just kind of did an outline here. This isn't meant to be like an aura or anything like that or anything accurate, but what you have there is you have just kind of a layers of substances, forces, and what you have is magnetism, electricity, light, plasma, gas, liquid, and solid. Now, how they all interrelate, how they interplay is not entirely clear, but if you're going to map out the psyche, the human psyche, in an accurate kind of model, you have to factor in all of these principles. And there's another kind of principle that's connected with that, and it's this notion of spin force compression. It's essentially the notion that the reason that our physical form takes a certain, the form, it holds the pattern and form that it does, the solids and liquids of our physical body, is because there are presumably plasma and gas forces or substances that are compressing those liquids and solids and maintaining them in their coherent pattern and form. Likewise, those plasma and gas substances would be compressed through spin forces, magnetic, electrical, photon spin forces. So that's just the first principle and just kind of a rough idea of what that might be like. And I'm just going to run through it, and then I'll go to each of this drawing that I had. So the next principle is sexual transformation. This is integral to a physics of psychology perspective. It's basically the notion that the fluids, the sexual fluids, can be transformed into gases that have some sort of, they do things within the human psyche. They provide an energy source or resource, which then has a tendency to precipitate gas absorption of gases into not just oxygen into the physical body, but other gases into the psyche. And you can feel you can feel two things. You can experience the transformation of sexual fluids. Likewise, you can actually feel the absorptions or experience the absorption of other gases into other places. It doesn't, it raises more questions than it answers, but these are just basic facts of principles of a new psychology that I want to just lay out there at the beginning. Now, another principle is that you have three primary centers. This is a concept that comes from Gurdjieff, that you have three primary centers: the mental, emotional, and physical. And then, so those are the basic kind of outlines. Now, there's a couple more principles, though, which is that these processes of sexual transformation and gas absorption are precipitated by various kinds of forms of movement, sound, and intention. And probably the yogis, the yogic tradition, they have the best grasp of this, regardless of whether there are still some unanswered questions there that science might be able to answer if they actually tried to ask the right questions. Another principle in the new kind of psychology is this notion of self-development. And this kind of ties back also to the teaching of Gurdjieff, which is that psychological transformation is based on real physical substances, or, as I said, a physics of psychology. The final principle is just self-expression and experience. Now, what I have is a couple different drawings. I have one, little tiny ones here. I don't know how well this will come through, but this one just shows a little upper torso with these 3 points that are the 3 centers, which are mental, emotional, and physical centers. You have expression, which is going outward, experiences, which is coming inward, and then the self-development process, which is developing all of the mental, emotional, and physical faculties. And then I did another little drawing just showing, movement, sound, and intention. Well, and actually, let me do the other drawing, because on the other drawing, what you have here is gas absorption. So gases are being absorbed. They go to the head, they go to the solar plexus, they go to the navel. Sexual fluids are being transformed in the navel. They go up to some of the substances may remain right there, some of the gases, to nourish the body, but then some go to the solar plexus, some go to the head. Now, then you, of course, as I said, you have these 2 arrows. You have expression going outward, expressing yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically, and then experience going inward, experiencing mentally, emotionally, and physically. And of course, the 3 centers, the mental at the head, the emotional at the solar plexus, and the physical at the navel. And of course, through various kinds of practices of, involving movement, sound, intention, some of which have been laid out in, Taoist traditions and yogic traditions, and maybe even in some sense in the Buddhist traditions, but which we could probably develop further. And these different practices of movement, sound, and intention would be the catalysts for transformation of sexual fluids, absorption of gases, and then you would take those energies and in some sense accumulate them for development of your mental, emotional, and physical faculties, as well as expression in life. So these are the principles of a new psychology: physics of psychology, sexual transformation, gas absorption, 3 centers, mental, emotional, and physical, movement, sound, and intention practices specifically to transform sexual fluids and for the absorption of gases, self-development being based on a physics of psychology where psychological transformation is based on real physical substances, and then just the whole thing of self-expression and experience in life. So that's about it. That's all. Thanks.